the landlords who are the crappy ones, the slumlords or whatever, that just suck all that cash out, eventually they've got to sell, right? And
Right.
those people, I mean, we've bought from those people mainly, parks with 20 vacant homes, 30 vacant homes that people just they didn't want to invest in. Or so they've always been turnaround parks.
Yeah.
So we've been able to, in all these cases, yeah, I would say all but this last one we bought, they've all been turnarounds. We've been able to add value, clean up the parks, repave, make it a nice place for people to, for their friends and family to come visit. So it's
Right.
rewarding in that respect.
Welcome to the Wild West Real Estate Podcast. And now, here's your host, Mark Hinteman.
Today's guest has been in the mobile home park space since 2015. With current partnerships, he owns parks in Texas, Ohio, and Michigan. I'd like to welcome Matt Boettinger.
Hey, thank you. Nice, Mark. Nice for having me.
Good to have you on. It's not often where I get to speak with a mobile home investor. So yeah, just give me
Quite a privilege for you, right?
right. Definitely. Yeah. So where are you located?
I'm in the Atlanta MSA, right?
Pardon me?
So Atlanta MSA, right?
Atlanta. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Just
Atlanta.
north of Atlanta.
Give me a little background on yourself with your investing career. Are you still working a W-2?
Yeah, sure am. Sure am. I'm a IT portfolio project manager. So I manage people and projects, in the IT space. Long career in consulting and project management, things like that.
Okay. So you got into mobile home parks.
Yeah, probably in 2014, I started looking at, at some point you realize, hey, I'm not going to be CIO of a company. I'm not going to be the CEO of a company. And so how do I get another multiple streams of income coming in to make life easier, right? Retirement's easier and such. And so I knew back then, 2014, I guess the real estate industry was just coming back. And so I started looking at specifically just various niches within real estate. And I started with looking at single family homes. And I thought, if I buy a home and something screws up and I have to evict, well, I've got no cash flow, right? So then, I'm looking at multifamily. And at the time, apartments were getting to be a big thing. They probably already were, but it was just out of my price range, right? And I didn't have other people's money, or I was too green to use other people's money. I looked at a bunch of other things and I kind of settled between mobile home parks and self-storage, and just decided to go mobile home parks just because you could get smaller pieces of property and also kind of graduate up a little bit further or a little bit more. And it seemed more financeable for somebody, at my point in life at the time.
When you started with that, did you invest passively with others or did you invest on your own?
Now, I've never invested passively in mobile home parks. It's funny because I have in self-storage, but with mobile home parks, I just looked around for people who were interested in the same thing. And thanks to Bigger Pockets, right? I was on there for a while, and that's kind of what got me into the bug in the first place. I think I was able to reach out to somebody local and develop a partnership with him. We brought on another guy who we found out was interested, went to this boot camp way back when, weekend boot camp that kind of gave you the high level of what needs to be done to find one, to operate and all that. And then we were able to network with enough people that we found one for sale that was off market and we were able to buy it.
Oh, cool.
So, yeah. And the guy that we bought it from, he's actually still kind of a mentor of mine. I probably call him a handful of times a year just to talk shop and see how things are going. But it's funny how many times you run across people in this space where you just keep those relationships going. So that's another thing about it. It's a good niche because there are very few people in it.
That's nice. It's really exceptional, at least in my experience. to buy a property off of an owner who maintains a relationship with you
Yeah.
and can serve as a mentor. I mean, obviously they know, typically in that scenario, they know the property really well and could probably catch more things, knows more about it than your inspection company.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
may
Way
on the
more. And it's funny because this guy, he's probably owned maybe 400, 500, 600 maybe parks in his lifetime. And so he's forgotten more than I've ever known about mobile home parks, I'm sure. And he was able to take us through it step by step. Really good guy, and was patient with us on our first purchase. So just lucked into that, right?
Oh, cool. Yeah. You still have a relationship with him?
Yeah, we probably talk 3 or 4 times a year, probably.
Okay.
Yeah. So I think he's mostly retired now. He's a little bit older than me.
Does
No.
he still act as sort of a mentor?
We generally
Gotcha.
catch up on industry, but not really. But he would, right? If I were ever to kind of come up with an issue that I didn't know how to deal with, and I felt like he was the one that would have an answer for me, he would gladly supply me with the answer, right? It's nice to have those people in your back pocket when you need them, you know?
Absolutely. I was thinking of my own experience. My loan broker, parts of people who are on my team who have, and I have a lot of experience. I have like 25 years, but there's guys that have like 50 years of experience
Yeah.
and they've just been through everything and
Yeah.
they're really invaluable.
It is funny because I have a loan broker who's the same way, right? I've known him for quite a few years, and call him at the drop of a hat. It's interesting because those are the people who really know in a way where the industry is going, but even more so in certain ways than an actual broker, because they know what's being funded and how it's being funded. And
Right.
so you can really get the latest on, because, we're kind of in the middle of looking at a couple different deals right now. And my first call is to this guy because ultimately you have to
Right.
underwrite to a certain level of, okay, where rates, what are they asking for as far as down payment and LTV, and, what's the DSCR I have to reach, or, the coverage ratio that I have to reach.
Yeah.
I mean, anybody can underwrite and understand where expenses are going to be and where revenue is going to be, and project that out. Right. But right now, the biggest question mark is financing, right?
Always. That's so
Yeah.
funny that it's always the first call because you want to know, like, where are rates? Is this deal?
It's the first call and it's the longest pole in the tent, right? It's like the biggest obstacle, honestly, in a
Yeah.
lot of cases. It is funny that way, but honestly, it's not only rates, it's how soon, right? How soon is it due, right? With a commercial loan,
Oh,
right?
yeah.
Is it 5-year versus 7-year? I mean, you want to push for as long as it can go, even if it's a little bit of a higher rate, because you always will have the option of refinancing if things go back down. But man, I tell you, you look at these people now who are in probably the multifamily space, who bought at a 4 cap, had their loan, 5 years ago, have their loan coming due or whatever. You just wonder what's going to happen, right?
Yeah. Big portfolios.
Yes.
I think we have 40 properties, 40 multifamily properties. And knock on wood, there's only one of them that's coming due this year. And I feel like we'll probably squeak by this whole, the trouble that's been caused by
Yeah.
the rate hikes.
Yeah.
But
Hey,
like,
If you own it in a fund versus syndication, it's probably a lot easier, right? I would imagine, because then you can kind of rebalance and all that. But if it's a syndication where that's a harder thing to deal with, I would imagine.
yeah, yeah. But yeah, it's I mentioned, maybe I mentioned it too much. Like, I've been around for a long time, like 25 years of investing. And, I went through the Great Recession, and I think now, like the last year, in a lot of ways, it's harder to navigate now than it was in the Great Recession, just because interest rates are so critical to the success of multifamily investing. And just the surprise that they would jump from as low as they were to now as high as they are.
I know.
It
I
could
know.
just torpedo your investments.
You're projecting 8% or 10% increases in rents every year for the next 5 years or whatever it is.
Right.
I don't know. I just don't think that's going to happen, but we'll see.
Yeah. That's cool. So tell me a little more about your mobile home parks.
Yeah. But right now we've got a couple of, actually three parks in Ohio, one in Michigan, and then one in Texas. So the ones in Ohio vary from, I think, from as low as 40 spaces to somewhere just under 100 spaces. And then
Okay.
you find that one of our strategies is to, buy like a slightly larger park in an area, and then you can go and buy smaller ones right around it,
Okay.
versus going and buying a smaller one in the middle of nowhere and then having a hard time building up to that. Right.
Got it.
That kind of helps you. That's been able to really help us expand and buy deals that, so we just closed on a park that's 40 spaces within the last 2 months, I guess. It's small, but given that we can share now, the management structure that we have in the other parks, it makes it all worth it.
Okay. In what parts of Ohio? This is my selfish.
So they're all smaller towns, right? But they're pretty well. So the first one there's one in Ada, Ohio.
Okay.
And Lima. Right.
Lima.
So
Okay.
those are really close to each other. And then there's another one in Tiffin. So they're
Tiffin,
all
okay.
within. It's funny because I'll run across people that are from Ohio that haven't heard of some of these things.
Haven't heard of any of those. I've heard of Lima.
Yeah.
I remember I went to college down in Southern Ohio, in like Middleton was like the town, but like even tinier towns all around that. And it was Southern Ohio, and there was a lot of mobile home parks.
But I mean, it's funny because a lot of times people don't mind living, like Ada is basically a suburb of Lima, right? I mean, Lima actually is somewhat of a larger, it's
Right.
a small city or a big town or whatever. I mean, they've got everything you need there.
Right.
But where Ada is more of a rural setting, I mean, it's a nice town, and people like moving into these places where it's still a quick commute into town, but it's a little bit more remote and a little quiet. It's nice,
So I moved from Ohio to LA. In LA, there's so many. The climate in LA, it's pretty amazing.
Oh,
It's beautiful. But I miss like the forests and rivers and like waterfalls of Ohio, and there's some really nice pockets in the country, away from the cities in Ohio.
Oh no, I agree. And everything. It's funny because I went up there we had this sale on homes, right, that we were selling up there a couple months back, and just everything is picturesque. I mean, how many of these little farmhouses with the big farm? Yeah, it's just very nice, right?
Country.
Yeah. But I mean, it's very pretty. So
Yeah.
I know what you mean. Though the change of seasons is different. Like we were talking before. I grew up in Pittsburgh, and you do miss the fall. I don't miss the winters for anything, though. I mean, like the snow,
Right.
You could have it.
Yeah. I like the winter for about 3 weeks. And then I'm ready for it to be
here
over.
in Atlanta, it snows about once a year, maybe.
What is the size of your mobile home portfolio at this point?
Yeah. So we've got, total we've ever owned has been around 1,000, but we're probably down to about 400 now.
And when you say we, who's on your team?
Well, so it's me and two other partners currently. When I talk about 1,000, it's probably more me in my career, right? I actually had two different partnerships before these two partners, which were M2K Partners. They and I aligned more with what we were trying to do, or with what I was trying to do. It's interesting because as you go through these partnerships, it just sometimes you just you split up and you remain friends and all that. But I mean, you really realize that everybody's not always aligned with the goals, right? Somebody wants to do it more passively. Others want to get more aggressive. And sometimes, people don't, I don't know if I want to say pull their weight, but it's more than they thought when you get into it, right?
Yeah. The commitment.
So, and I can tell you that I'm not speaking bad about any of my past partners. I mean, two of them have actually come back and invested with me in my current partnership in deals, right? So, and I can still call any of these guys at the drop of a hat and, catch up. They've moved on to do different things like me, and but still, we're still good friends and all that stuff.
Right. It's good to maintain good relations with
Yeah.
partners, whether they work out or not. You never know what's going to happen down the road, and maybe they could be a resource or
Yeah.
helpful.
I'm not into burning bridges. So,
Do
but
you-
it's funny is that, when I first started, right, when I first started investing in it, you always heard that the cap rates were better than multifamily, which, I mean, it was at the time. I don't know if it is anymore, to tell you the truth. I don't necessarily think it still is, but I really did get into it for, the money and the cash flow and just, it was a niche, right, that a lot of people were in. So you thought, hey, I might be able to compete better in here because there's
less crowded.
less competition.
Yep.
But I mean, I got into it for that. But I mean, after a while, you realize that you're kind of affecting people's lives, right? And that you go by these places where parks aren't kept up, or they've just like sucked any kind of cash out, never invested any money back.
Right.
And people are like living in squalor.
Yep.
And so, I mean, it's funny because you get much more out of it if you put money back into it, right? And that way you can raise rents. And these people have better lives. They're more, they just have a good place to come home to and have a nice, safe, clean place to call home, right? So that's more why I stayed in it versus, I mean, I think as time has gone on, you can find other things that make money, right? I think we could have diverted into many other things along the way, but I think here you get to have a good impact on people, and it's affordable housing, which is something that is, everybody says it's in short supply, and it's completely true. Nobody really seems to be doing anything about it from from an overall perspective. And so just trying to improve that, make it put my little mark on the earth and
right.
positive one.
Provide safe, clean living environments.
Yeah.
I mentored a kid when I was in college, down in Southern Ohio, and he lives in a mobile home park, and it was a tough mobile home park. But it's like our team as well. We like affordable housing. And one of the gratifying aspects of that is that you take these you buy buildings that are maybe run by slumlords, and, you're cleaning it up. You're doing tons of cleanup work.
Yeah.
To get
But honestly, it's gratifying. Like, I've told this story a million times, but I never get tired of telling it. So one of our first purchases, there was a registered sex offender in the park. There was a drug dealer, and I'm talking like meth and pills and stuff like that.
Right.
Well, something. Anyway, so the first thing we did was when we bought it was we have these people evicted, right? And we considered it a really, really positive thing. And months later, I was down there touring the park at the time, and just, walk around, do a walk, and, lady comes up and asks, that was the owner. I just said, yeah, we're with the partnership. And, she just said, thank you for doing that. I mean, I was afraid to let my kids outside and play. And I mean, she had 3 or 4 year olds, with tricycles out in the yard and all this stuff. And she didn't want to let them out there because who knows if they get into the road and some meth head drives by their house to get to the dealer, it ends up running them over because they're jonesing or whatever. I mean, I think as landlords, we've got an obligation to be able to provide a clean, safe place for people to live. I mean, we should be into it for that, right?
Yeah. And when you look across the country, there's different, political systems that I think in some states, and where I am, they are so vigilant. The government is so vigilant on that stuff that, maybe it's good, but sometimes you're, wincing at how much regulation there is on everything. Maybe Ohio. I'm in California, obviously. Ohio's maybe a little more.
Yeah. I think so. Yeah, but I mean, the one thing I'll say about it is the landlords who are the crappy ones, right? The slumlords or whatever that just suck all that cash on it. Eventually they've got to sell, right? And
Right.
those people, I mean, we've bought from those people mainly, all except I think our first park, who the Metro we bought from him, but all the other ones, I feel like that they've all been really fixed me up parks, parks with 20 vacant homes, 30 vacant homes that people just they didn't want to invest in, or, so they've been turnaround parks.
Yeah.
So we've been able to, in all these cases, I would say all but this last one we bought, they've all been turnarounds. We've been able to add value, clean up the parks, repave, make it a nice place for people for their friends and family to come visit. And so it's
Right.
rewarding in that respect.
Right. Heavy value add, which speaks to, as an investor, that kind of works. Like, that increases your appreciation
It does.
by buying something that's rough, and you adding the value. It allows you to buy cheap and
Yeah. And honestly, I mean, if you run the math on, so we've done this, I think, with three different parks with my current group, is we've bought parks that have 30 empty homes, right? And so we go in and we, find a team who can go in and kind of do the rehab and then sell, right? So you're buying off of current NOI for the most part, maybe giving them a little bit, but I mean, you turn around 30 empty homes and you're going to do great.
yeah.
So when you put that at a 10 cap, even after you sell the home, $400 lot rent, that's $4,800 at a 10 cap. That's what, $48,000, I guess, in value. And you times that by 30. I mean, it's simple math, and it's simple to understand the value at that point, right?
Right. So how many states are you in at this point?
So we're in 3.
3. Okay.
Yeah. So Michigan, Ohio, Texas, and we've got a couple of other areas we're looking in. So we're looking kind of in the Midwest, and I think a little bit more in Texas too. So just depending on what we can find. We've never really bought. Well, we've not bought from brokers generally. We've got most of ours through just relationships and off market deals. And that's probably made us grow more slowly than a lot of people that I've known, right? Have been able to grow faster. But I feel like all of our parks have been pretty much close to home runs, if not home runs and triples.
And you attribute that to the fact that you're not buying on market, you're buying mostly off market.
Yeah, to a certain extent. I mean, honestly, yeah, you look back at 2015, 2016, and God knows, we passed up. I passed up like 9 cap parks, right? Off of actuals. I mean, I'm kicking myself now. But generally they're harder to find, so you don't find as many, but the ones you do find are generally better.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
And what's the financing like? What kind of financing do you get for a park?
Yeah. So we've only gotten owner financing one time, but now I remember when we first started in 2015, it was hard to come by. Financing was hard to come by. That first loan was actually a USDA loan, and it was because it was rural, right? It was rural Alabama, but it was close to Gulf Shores, right? So it was about a half hour from the beach. So the employment was great and everything was great, but it was still considered rural. Nowadays, you have no problem getting bank loans. I think in general, they're not as good as multifamily apartments, right? But they're still, it's way easier, way better than it used to be.
Okay.
So you got regional banks, national banks. I mean,
everybody's into it now. Yeah. Maybe 10 years ago, 20 years ago, it felt like, when I got started, it felt like mobile home parks were more difficult to finance.
Yes, but they were.
But nowadays, I guess,
it's not an issue now. I think, and that's I guess that's probably a blessing and a curse that everybody knows about them now, right? What a great industry they are now, or what a great deal they are now.
Right.
Yeah, it makes that easier, but you've got so many more people kind of coming in and putting bids in and such. So it's harder to find deals.
Sure. Yeah, I can imagine.
Yeah.
Is there a failure or mistake that you made early on that has helped you in the long run?
I would say one of the one of the biggest mistakes I think we made was this was somewhat early on in the partnership that I have now is we basically lost a lot of earnest money, right? Because we made the assumption that people would people would invest with us at a park that was an okay deal, but wasn't a great deal. And, so we basically were up against the wall and trying to raise money. We couldn't close it in time. So
you got stuck. Yeah. You got
we
stuck.
got stuck. Yeah. And it's funny because our investors, so we've never syndicated, right? We've always had LLCs, right? So we have the quarterlies, quarterly calls and all that stuff. But I mean, all of our investors have all been, well, but the vast majority have been real estate investors in their own right. And so they're very easy. It's very easy once you have their trust, it's very easy. They'll invest again and again and again. But I think it was that first time that we were raising money where the IRR wasn't going to be what we thought it was going to be, or what they wanted, right, as a minimum. So we just weren't able to raise that money in time.
I see. Yeah. That's always, knock on wood. That's always the looming risk.
Yes.
With that, especially as you get into larger and larger properties, whatever asset class you're in. There's always the risk that, maybe you've got the trust in a deep stable of investors, but something could happen in the economy that could spooks everybody. And once you've already removed contingencies.
I kind of get the feeling though, if we had that same deal today, I don't think we'd have any trouble. Just because we've proven ourselves enough times, right, with these people.
Sure.
But, it is what it is. It's okay.
Who's on your team?
Yeah. So I've got two partners. One is Ekaterina Stepanova. She lives in New York City, and I've got Nick Villanueva. He actually lives in California, Southern California. And so we're three partners, and where Ekaterina, she's kind of like the full-time operator, right? So she gets into she is the type A organizer, and she really gets it done as far as collections, setting up systems, all that, right? She does all the hiring, right? She's full-time.
Got it.
Into that. So, but very, I mean, great partner to have. Yeah. Both of them.
Sure. Yeah. That sounds good. So it's basically three of you?
Yeah.
New York, LA, or
we got it all covered. Atlanta. Yeah.
Atlanta, and you're in Atlanta. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. What challenges are you facing in today's environment?
Yeah. I would just say probably finding the deals, right? I'm sure you've heard it a bunch of times that the owners are stuck with the mentality that is 2 years ago, and that's not reality, right? So everybody still wants to sell their property at a 5 cap, assuming that you're going to get, you're going to be able to get the rate that you need to make that work.
Right.
And I mean, so that's one. The other is they're just a consolidation of the industry, right? I think and I still can't make sense of how some of these people buy these parks or these pieces of property at this rate, right? Like you still have people buying it like 6 caps. Okay. And they're not getting a 5% loan or a 4% loan, right? They're getting an 8 or a 6, somewhere between a 6 and an 8% loan, right?
Right.
And I don't know how that works. I don't know. They may just come in with a bunch of cash and then hope to God that rates lower over the next couple of years so they can refinance. But I don't. It's a mystery to me. Do you know how that works? I feel like I've asked a lot of people about that. I just have never had a good answer.
About rates, like where
Well,
rates are,
you
or
know,
how to finance.
you still find people buying that when I pencil it out, you come in at a loss, right?
Yeah, I
Right.
think,
How does that work?
yeah, it's difficult. I mean, I think if people have maybe a windfall event where they have a lot of cash, they buy
Yeah.
all cash, and now is
Yeah.
a great time to buy all cash, and you can, you could cross your fingers, and I think there's a decent chance that rates will be lower in the future, just if you look at the historical norms, or yeah, get seller financing. We just
Yeah, that is the option. That's how you can
deal.
make it work. I agree
Yeah,
with
we
that.
just did a deal that a pretty sizable multifamily property where we got 2% financing from the seller for for 4 years.
Wow.
Yeah, which is amazing. It totally made the deal.
Oh, I'm sure it
There's
had to.
literally one element that made that deal great, and it was the
And
finance.
that's great because you give them the price they want, right? And then 2% and they're happy.
Yeah,
which is pretty funny, right? Because you could lower that price, increase that rate to 5%, be paying the same amount of money, and they would look
right.
at that as not a deal, right?
Right. Yeah, yeah. What's a habit that brings you the most benefit?
Oh, habit that brings me the most benefit. I think it's funny. I'm in GoBundance, right? I've got one of these guys that I trade push-ups with every morning, right?
No way. Because ironically, I've been on this kick. I don't know how old you are, but I'm 54 years old.
I'm pretty
And
close.
and I was just like, at the beginning of the year, I'm like, you know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna try to do 100 push-ups in a row. And I built up, and I was having gains, and I got up to, and nobody's gonna wanna listen to this on a real
Well, then
estate
you got to
podcast.
keep it in, right? You got to keep it in.
But I'm up to right now, I can do 70 push-ups in a row with good form. And when I started, I could maybe get like 45, but
Yeah.
I'm kind of hit a wall at 70. I got to find a way to I got to read or go watch videos on how to get past that sort of
Yeah. See,
that
I,
plateau.
yeah, it's funny because I do push-ups, but I do them 20 at a time. Like I'm up to what, like 64, I think, or something like that. And I can't do them all at once. Like
Yeah.
that, you know?
Yeah, it's fun. It's fun, and it's great. It's fun for me to go all out, to just like go maximum until,
Yeah.
and maybe not, it's not good. No, I haven't consulted any kind of doctor or medical professional, but like I fail. I go to failure where I just like, my arms don't work anymore. But it is exciting. It's like,
Yeah,
it's got this little thing, this little challenge that I'm gonna go for and
Yeah, it's
see.
just more. Yeah, and morning habits, right? I mean, that's when it's best to do it, I think.
Right.
Because I mean, you forget that your day is shot, right? I mean, because you
Right.
just get into the day and
Yeah.
forget about it. So morning time is the best time.
Yeah. Sorry, I didn't mean to hijack your answer, but so
All
I
good.
like that you're doing push-ups.
Yeah, that's right.
Well, are you ready for our question round?
I sure am.
What's the book you've recommended most over the past year?
Oh, it's well, so I belong to a book club, right? And so it's all guys, and we just read books and meet once a month at a bar, restaurant, or something. And but out of that, my favorite book is by Cormac McCarthy. I mean, Blood Meridian. I don't know if you ever read it. It's
cool.
I know you're probably not thinking fiction.
No, I love it. I love it.
Yeah.
Cormac McCarthy. Yeah.
man. He's great. He came out with a couple new books that I got to read, but those are them right there if you can see. But
Oh, yeah.
yeah, but like business wise, I know I got something. What is it? It's I like 10x is better than 2x, or 10x is, I can't remember what it's called, but it's
Is that Grant Cardone?
no, it's
Oh, yeah. That's
Dan-
a newer
Dan
one you're
Sullivan,
talking about.
right? Dan Sullivan.
Dan Sullivan. Okay.
Yeah,
And
I think it's new, right? So
I've heard that
new.
recommended by a couple people.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
it must be good.
So I like his stuff, and I like Buy and Build and Who Not How, right? Both of those are really good,
Okay.
and yeah, so there are always great books out there. But you didn't ask it for the nonfiction ones. So I gave you the fiction foundation.
I love it. I love it. What was your favorite movie when you were 15?
Wow, Star Wars, right?
Star Wars? Right. Definitely. Definitely Star Wars. Star Wars was mind blowing.
I know. I mean, of course. I mean, I saw that when I was young, but yeah. So I mean, yeah, you just grew up thought that was like the best movie ever.
Yeah,
So,
totally. And I work on the show Family Guy, and
yeah.
one of the highlights of the 23
Well, I've
years
seen that one. I've seen
I've
it.
been on is we got to do the Star Wars, and
Yeah.
George Lucas came, and a lot of us met George Lucas, and he gave us the music to it, which is like unheard of. He gave us all of the score for Star Wars, and so we did 3 installments of the Star Wars
I've seen it. I mean, it was
on
very
Family
good.
Guy. Super fun. Like, yeah, one of the highlights
That's
of
pretty cool, though. I mean, you get to meet George Lucas. Sounds more exciting than my job.
a group of us, and I missed it. I couldn't go for some reason, but they went up to the Lucas Ranch, and George Lucas gave them a tour.
That's a story right there. That's awesome.
Yeah. Here's what decade created the greatest music?
Oh, I mean, it's got to be the '90s, right?
The 90s?
Yeah. I mean, honestly, I look at things now and it was the whole grunge movement and all that. I mean, that was the last like great rock and roll, right? I mean,
Right.
it all kind of went to, I don't want to say crap, but there's
Yeah, I don't know.
obviously it's good music now, but it's just, that was the last great push of rock bands to actually like,
Yeah, the most distinct wave. I guess the only big distinct wave other than grunge would be like the alternative or whatever it's called, alternative music,
yeah, yeah.
which
Yeah, that
there's
was enjoyable too. Like the
great band.
Cure and that whole genre, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I enjoyed that too.
Yeah. I'm becoming a relic. Like my kids listen to what's out there today, and I don't listen to anything
Really?
that's less
Yeah.
than 30 years old.
Yeah, but it's funny. It's funny. Like, I will listen with my daughter to some of her music, and it's good. I mean, it's good. Don't get me wrong, but it's just not necessarily what I like. But it's funny. My son started listening to Tool
Okay.
about a year ago, maybe something like that. So
That
yeah,
makes sense. How old's your son?
he's 19. So,
Okay.
yeah, he just finished his freshman year of college.
Oh,
And,
yeah, yeah. That's right.
And yeah, just having a great summer so far.
Yeah.
So
Cool. And then
yeah.
we're almost at the end, but when are you happiest?
Oh, I would say probably at the beach.
At the beach?
But yeah, at the beach under some shade.
Yeah.
That's
Do you have a beach near you in Atlanta?
not really. No,
No, you gotta
it's
drive.
I mean, it's 5 hours, right? 5, 6
Okay.
hours.
Yep. Yep.
So it's close enough. We usually go once a year, but it would be, it's one of my goals to eventually get some, either a beachfront condo or a house or something like that. So it's
Yeah.
one of the bucket list items, I think.
Yeah. Cool.
So yeah.
That'd be fun. And lastly, how can listeners reach out to you?
Yeah, they can find me at email me, Matt, M-A-T-T, at M2KPartners.com.
Okay. Is that your
Happy to-
company? M2K?
Yeah, you can look us up at M2KPartners.com.
Okay.
And send me an email if you want to talk about parks. I'm always happy to.
Talk about parks. You should brand yourself as like park guy or something.
Yeah, it's funny. I missed the whole branding thing, and the branding thing is not me.
Oh, okay.
It
Yeah.
is not me. It's funny. It's funny.
Right.
There you go. Yeah.
There you go. Well, this has been great. I really appreciate it and fun hearing about your adventures in mobile home
Yeah.
parks.
Thanks, Mark. I appreciate the time.
All right. Have a good one.
All right. Have a good one.
Thank you for joining us for the Wild West Real Estate Show. If you like what we're attempting to do here, please subscribe so we can continue sharing these with you. And if you want to check out our website, it's quantumcapitalinc.com. You'll find podcast episodes as well as multifamily properties we're looking at and how you could potentially participate. Look forward to seeing you guys soon on the Wild West Real Estate Show.